Hey gang, it's your GM Drakeen here with another homebrew. I want to talk about some skills that are used in combat. First, I think most questions can be answered by using passive checks, like passive perception. For this example, let's say your passive perception is 10. The example here I give is if a wizard casts invisibility, um, you know, and you were using, say, your perception to try and find that, your passive perception score normally would be like 10 plus whatever your modifiers are, and you would get plus 5 if it was during combat. Most people are on the guard in combat, so you get plus 5 to your perception score. So your passive perception would be 15 total. So the wizard would need a 16 or higher, and you'd be using the wizard's passive stealth. So let's look at Victoria here. So Victoria casts her invisibility spell to escape, and her passive stealth would be 10 plus 2, which would be 12. So even though you couldn't see Victoria, you would still know where Victoria was, and I would just tell you, you can hear Victoria is in this over here. Um, you would still have to be able to attack with disadvantage, but at least you would know their location and be able to hear them or be able to see that they're leaving tracks or whatever the case is. If, for example, maybe Victoria got 100 feet away, these are some modifiers you might use. I just made these up. Um, if Victoria got 100 feet away or more, I would give her a plus 2 her passive stealth. So it would be um, 14. And if she got 200 feet or more, her passive stealth would be 17. 300 feet or more plus 10. So her passive stealth would be 22. Uh, Now, say she got out of your passive perception range and you're still looking for Victoria, trying to find her, um, you could actually make an active check here, like an active perception or investigation check if you were tracking her or survival or whatever it is, and use it as a do that as a bonus action and still take your action. So that would be when you would go to the next level. If you had physical checks, like you wanted to go stealth yourself, maybe you are Victoria and you actually wanted to actually improve your stealth, beyond your passive stealth, take an active stealth during your action, then you would have to do that during your action, and then you could, make your stealth roll plus, hers was plus 2. It could be worse in that case. So that's pretty much it. I think that answers most questions, but you know, basically the logic is if it's a sort of mental, I guess for lack of a better word, mental ability like survival, perception, insight, investigation, which are the typical ones people are using during combat. Something that doesn't involve like a physical thing, you can do it as a bonus action. And if it does involve a physical thing like stealth, it requires an action unless you have a class feature that says otherwise. So that's that. And then another example would be, and this is from Xanathar's, if you wanted to identify a spell in combat. So say someone casts a spell, I describe the spell. I never say usually what the spell is. I just describe the effects of the spell. Maybe someone wants to say, hey, I want to counter that spell. Um, they would be able to make an Arcana check. Now, if they're passive Arcana, I would just tell them, okay, you know that they're casting the spell. But say they couldn't, their passive Arcana was lower than the DC for the spell, and here it would be 15 plus the spell's level. Say, they could use, if their passive failed, they could then use their reaction to try and make a check to identify what the spell is. Or it gives another example down here. If, a cleric is trying to identify a spell from the same class as another cleric, they would get advantage. And I would give them advantage to their passive first, and say, hey, okay, you do know what this is, so they wouldn't, necessarily lose their reaction. If they couldn't identify it, then they could, they could make a check with their reaction. So that's like a different kind of skill check to identify something. I think a lot of people, I haven't really seen this utilized a lot. I think a lot of people forget that you can actually figure out, what spell is coming at you in combat. And lastly, I wanted to talk about gaming. I feel like gaming, the different gaming sets, dice set, dragon chess, playing cards, and three dragon ante should be just combined into one skill, gaming. I mean, that just seems to make sense to me. Why would nobody has that many, you know, slots to put in different skill provision to take every single game. And obviously there are games that are not on this list. So not why not combine everything into one skill, gaming? Seems to make sense, right? And this is just a cultural thing that I've read about. Halflings, I would give halflings gaming proficiency as a bonus skill, so they just get it because of how they were raised, how they were growing up. Now, gaming was a big part of one of my games, so I wanted something kind of like a game that is ongoing. I don't know if anyone's been to Vegas, but people spend hours and hours and hours literally gambling and playing games in casinos and stuff like that. Um, you can look up, and usually there's no clocks in casinos, and you can spend 8 hours easy without even noticing. So I wanted some a game like that, and one of the games I found was this game called The Dragon and the Thief. It's a really good interactive game. I'm going to show you. I wanted like to kind of like a craps table with this layout here on the right with the numbers. I made the numbers red so you could see them a little better. But the way this game works, it's basically you use coins to play. Number 12 is the dragon, uh, which is right here, and then number 7 would be the horde, and number 2 would be down here, the thief. So those are the main really cool aspects, cool things that happen if you get a 2, 12, or 7. So if you roll a 2, the player takes all the coins except for those on number 7. So you can't get the horde, but you can take all the coins except the horde. Um, and new players can enter the game. Uh, in the original rules, it says players can enter any time, but I think that would cause some confusion because players could enter the game only when they see the horde is full, which isn't really fair to the other people. So I kind of wanted to structure it so when new players enter the game, they can only enter at this time and one other time. If you get any of these other numbers, you just check the number for a coin. If there's a coin there, the player takes it. If there is no coin, the player puts one down on that number. Simple enough. I changed this rule also. The original rule says if you roll a 4, the player does nothing. That's kind of boring, so I changed it to house wins. So if you roll a 4, your coin disappears. The house has to get paid somehow, right? And then number 7 is the horde. So this, you can only put, number 7 is the most common number. You're rolling 2d6, of course. You probably figured that out. And this just builds up, builds up, builds up of coins. And then number 12, the player takes all the coins on the board, which is, a big deal because, that's the dragon's head. And then new players can enter the game. So this works really well as a backdrop. You don't have to, obviously play this at reception, but you could kind of have this going on while actually some role playing is going on in a tavern, or maybe some people are very, very into gaming, so there's a lot of ways you could utilize this in the background, or you could even just kind of passively say, okay, we're going to play this game, and then do something completely different, and then I could give you the results of the game randomly or roll. You don't even have to necessarily do it during the session. You could do it between sessions. Just say, look, I'm going to try and jump into this game, and I just roll a bunch of times in chat or something and show you the result. So there's a lot of ways you could utilize this game. Um, and that's it. So these are my games again. Still looking for players. Please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you at the gaming table. Take care.